Hi everyone, I'm Stephen Kinsella. I'm a member of the Murroe Wood Park Board, and in lieu of a physical consultation and the communication, we just wanted to tell you a little bit about your site and what we've been doing on your behalf to develop the site. So I have two amazing people here with me today. I've got Trisha Purcell, who's a landscape architect with Dave Ryan Landscape Architects, and I've got Cathal Quinn, who is the MD of Quinn Architects and the director there. So what we're going to do is, Trisha, if you could just take us through the overall landscape, what your plan is for the space, and if you can just share the drawing of that with us, and then if you could take us through that, and then right after when you finished, if Cathal, you could start, that would be wonderful. So with that, please take it away, Trisha.
Great, thanks, Stephen. I suppose the first thing I'll start with is talking a bit about the overall site and the context, so you can kind of get your bearings a bit. So along the southern area of the site, you have Harty Park. So this is the GAA field down here. Then you've in the kind of northwestern corner, you have Croakers. And then in the northeastern corner, you have Croakers, and then in the northwestern corner, you have the existing skate park. So I suppose the colouredy thing that you can see in between is the design that we've done around the new community building and how we've arranged the site for you. So I suppose with any community building, we've really, or community facility, we've really tried to focus on how to pack as much multi-use into the site as possible. Function and adaptability have been key drivers as well for the design. So our first, once the building was placed there, which is that big white thing that you can see in the corner, that's the community building. One of our main priorities was to try and link the building to the main street of Murroe. So we've done this by using a really strong pedestrian access that links the main street up through the car parking, the convenient car parking area, and it brings you to the corner of the building there. Which we've called a bit of a forecourt area, because really at this point, as a pedestrian, you choose whether you're going to go into the building to the west, or you're going to go up to the back of the building where you have a new play area and all the existing facilities there, the skate park and the AstroTurf. So we've created a little forecourt space there. And then towards the west, you come into a lovely plaza area, which we hope will be totally multifunctional. So you're talking about being able to use it for market days, for outdoor performances, for possible outdoor classrooms, or just as an informal meeting space. So we've got nice furniture, street furniture in there that includes seating, bicycle parking, bollards as well, to prevent vehicles going where they shouldn't. So this will be, the plaza and the forecourt area will be very much a pedestrian dominated space, apart from when emergency vehicles need to get in there. So I suppose the beauty of the plaza space as well is that it's south facing. So you have this really, I suppose, wonderful space created by the building and the big line of existing mature trees, which are beautiful. So the thing, I suppose, the great thing about these existing mature trees is that they really provide a sense of scale for the building. So they create a really comfortable space in the middle there that will be sheltered from the southwest winds, which are prevailing winds, and also the building is set back enough so it will be a kind of sun trap from the middle of the day into the afternoon. So you've got really interesting landscape features like good quality paving. We're trying to get a feeling there that's contemporary, but it's still warm and inviting. So there's timber in the seating, but you still have the nice grey tones and warm tones that have come out in the building through the stone and other key facade elements. We have a really nice axis of proposed new trees that line the pedestrian access line. So they'll provide really nice seasonal changes, like they're a nice red colour. In underneath the big existing trees, you have perennial planting, which is really great for pollinators. So we're trying to support the all island pollinator plan. That would be really important to us as well. We've picked up on the architecture of the building through a nice bespoke feature as well on the site. The lighting, it kind of picks up on the grid from the building. So hopefully the landscape and the architecture, the building architecture will feel as one. So I suppose really that for me kind of sums up our approach. I'd like to think that there is something for everybody in the space. I like to think that it functions really well. You have a good amount of parking, and yeah, it should generate a lot of community events, and hopefully people will enjoy using it. So.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Trisha. And just for those of us who don't understand this area, like what were the principles you were thinking of when you designed the space?
I suppose for me it was the fact that it's a community space. So for me, the multi-use element of this and the adaptability element were crucial. I also felt as well that I suppose it needed to have, the space needed to have a bit of class, and it needed to draw people into the site. So it needed to become a destination in itself, along with the building. Also, I like with COVID, the changes that have happened in the way that people use open space and how vital it is, I suppose was key on my mind as well, because we were designing this right in the middle of the pandemic. So yeah, so really that was where my mind was at. I'm a strong believer of maintaining any kind of significant vegetation on any site that we work with, and we've managed to do that, and we've added onto that with additional tree planting and additional hedgerow planting and perennial planting. So you've probably got a richer, in terms of biodiversity, you've probably got a richer environment than you had in the beginning, but people are using it now as well. So the two things are running hand in hand, which is a really nice idea as well. So
that sounds fantastic. Just in terms of the cars and the car parking, are those going to be electric cars and electric vehicles, or is there any plan there?
I think Cathal will be able to talk to you about that.
No worries. Happy days. Trisha, thank you so much. That's really brilliant. I actually can't wait to be able to experience the site like this. Because, like all the board members, we've been dreaming about what this thing is going to look like, and now you've given it a bit of shape for everyone. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cathal, if you are ready, why don't you tell us about the building that's going to occupy that big white space in the overall plan?
Thanks, Stephen. The Murroe Woods project is the third exciting phase into the delivery of the overall master plan vision for this community facility at the heart of Murroe Village. And the works proposed in this phase consist of several elements, comprising multi-purpose community building, an expansive plaza area that Trisha has just described, a generous car parking and set down for both cars and coach, as well as landscape grounds with footpaths that connect with the existing pedestrian routes across the site. I'm just trying to bring up the image. There we are, to the easy. The design of the building follows the general arrangement of that granted planning permission in 2016, but underwent serious review since our appointment last July to address changes, I suppose, in the thought process of the committee since 2016 and the present day. The building, as it stands now, consists of a range of accommodation to meet the varied needs of the local community. The building presents as a two-story structure, as you can see on the image on the screen, with two single-story projections to the front of the building, one here on the right, which stretches out from the cafe, and one on the left, which stretches out from the changing room area, which I'll describe in more detail when we look at the plans. And the proposal includes the use of the flat roofs above both those single-story blocks so that they're accessible for use by the building users. Generally speaking, the building consists of 3 blocks. The block on the right here consisting of the reception and the welcome area, the cafe, multi-purpose rooms, toilets, etc. The central block that you can see is the community space, the multi-purpose hall. And the space to the left is on the ground floor, consists of changing rooms, both for indoor use and outdoor use. And above that, the gym space, which we'll see on the plans. So I'll just move on to the floor plan. This is the ground floor plan of the proposed building. The building entrance is located here on the right-hand side, adjacent to the cafe. So that cafe opens out onto the plaza and to the forecourt, as Trisha described in her presentation a few moments ago. So when you come through that front entrance door, you enter into a general foyer and you're met with a reception desk, which is a point of contact for any visitor to the building. The building actually continues through. You can walk all the way through the building, through the corridor, and out to the rear space, the all-weather pitch, the playground, the skateboard park, and the general pedestrian route around the site through this way also. Adjacent to the foyer space on the right-hand side is the cafe, and that cafe has been designed to cater for approximately 80 seats. And as I said, that opens out to the forecourt and the plaza. So that should be a very attractive space, either in cold, wet weather in the winter or warm, sunny weather like we have today in the summertime. Behind that cafe space is a commercial kitchen. And that kitchen has, the layout of this has been designed in cooperation with a kitchen specialist to ensure that we have the right level of equipment to cater for a wide range of food offerings in the cafe space. And that has enormous potential. Another point maybe to make is that at the side of the cafe, just here where the servery is, there's a hatch window, if you like, that opens out to the footpath that runs from the car park back to the towards the all-weather pitch, playground, the skateboard park. And the idea is that someone who's passing can stop there to request a tea, a coffee, a Coke, or whatever is an offer that day from the window without having to enter the building. So it makes that cafe even more accessible. Going back to the interior of the building then, behind the reception, we have a small back office for a server and cameras and files and whatnot. Beyond that, the toilet facilities, male and female, and an accessible toilet facility also. Adjacent to that internal accessible toilet, there is also an externally accessible toilet, meaning that that aspect of the building, the toilet facility, can be used out of hours. So the building is locked down, but people are using the skateboard park, the playground, the all-weather. There is access to that accessible external WC. Internally, again, we have the first of our 2 multifunction rooms here on the ground floor, and that's at a very kind of key point in the building because it overlooks both the access path and across to the playground, the all-weather pitch, and to a degree the skateboard park. So that's in a key location there. And that the room has been designed to cater for a multitude of different uses to meet the community needs. Beside the block I've just described is the second block, as I showed you on the 3D image. And this is the main, I suppose, the hub of the building, or the nucleus of the building. It's the 2-story high multi-use, multi-purpose hall. You can see here in the image, we've shown a layout for seating. Those bleacher seating here, which retracts into the wall, like you might be familiar. Those who are familiar with the UL Arena will be familiar with the possibility to extend the seating out from the wall. Number one, and then on top of that, there's additional seating that can be laid on the floor, and that provides for performances or multiple uses of the hall. The other key use of the hall, I suppose, is sporting, and below the seating you get to see the outline of various line markings for basketball, volleyball, badminton, etc. So the hall has been conceived to be multi-purpose, and the finish of that hall will be a sprung timber floor. Behind that hall, then leading to the third block, you can see a series of rooms. This is maybe more back of house, if you like. The first room here is an internal store associated with the multi-purpose hall, but then we have 4 changing rooms. So we have 2 internal, when I say internal changing rooms, it's considered that those rooms will be used by people who are accessing the general purpose hall. The screen here is a little bit dark, but there's 2 changing rooms, toilets, and a series of showers, 5 showers per changing room. There's also a fully accessible shower room for people with accessibility needs. To the front of the building, then we have 2 more changing rooms, and there we call those the external changing rooms because they're directly accessible from the outside. The idea being that they would be predominantly used by those using the all-weather pitch on the one hand, or Harty Park on the other. And again, they're set out with benches around the perimeter, a WC toilet area, and showers. Moving then to, sorry, maybe I should say at the back of the building here we have the plant area. So these are an electrical room, and the boilers, etc., are all located here at the rear of the building. The outlines here you see at the back, you might be wondering what they are, and they're external staircases for evacuation from the first floor, which I'll show you in a moment. So moving on to that first floor, this plan kind of sits over the plan below. So I'll go to maybe the most notable feature, which is the second floor level, or the level over the multi-purpose hall. So you can see again, this is shown without the seating. So you see the space for basketball, badminton, volleyball, etc. You see the basketball hoops here. And along the edge of that space is a link corridor that links one wing of the building with the other wing of the building. And that's also conceived as a gallery. So there'll be a balustrade here along the line between where that corridor is and the double height space to allow spectators to gather there to have a view over into the multi-purpose hall. Going back to the first block, if you like, over the reception area, on this level, we have a number of different rooms. I mentioned the multi-function room on the ground floor. There's a second multi-function room here located at the back of the building, and a third one located here. So in total, there are 3 multi-purpose function rooms in the building. Adjacent to those 2 rooms is the Scout Den, which has been designed to cater for the Cubs and Scouts. And behind that, or beyond that, is the office space. And that's conceived as a hot desk office space, allowing for workspace facilities for startup companies or for anybody who needs maybe a remote working solution. I suppose since this building has designed, the whole COVID crisis and the need to work from home has become more to the fore. So this would perhaps offer someone a place to come to work that isn't at home, but would have good broadband, printing facilities, etc. I mentioned in my talk a short while ago about the external flat roof area. So one of those external flat roofs is over the projection of the cafe. And the idea is that open plan office space would open out onto the roof above the cafe. At the far side of the building, we have the main facility on the far side of the building is a gym. There's a large gym space located above the changing rooms on the ground floor, with views both over the open countryside to the west of the site, but also windows into the multifunction, the multi-purpose hall as well. There's a plant room beyond that to the top of the plan there. On the far side, this space I'm indicating now is a flat roof over the external changing areas. And again, the idea is that space could be used for various functions. In particular, maybe there might be some exercise equipment related to the gym function in the building. At the top of the plan here, you see the 2 staircases I alluded to on the ground floor plan. So there are 2 evacuation staircases at the far end of the building that allow for fire escapes at the back of the building. So going back then to the 3D, I showed the 3D in the front of the building. I might just go back there again now that we've talked about the plan arrangement. The selection of materials has been carefully considered to number one, tie into materials found in Murroe, and number one, and the second hand also to be hard wearing and low maintenance. So as you look at the front of the building here, the dark brown color here represents a timber finish. So it's a limited timber finish on the exterior of the building, particularly at this key point, which is the corner that you see as you approach the building, coming from the pedestrian route from the main street up past the car park to draw you up towards the plaza. The main material on the the multi-purpose hall is a hard-wearing cladding, and I have an image in a moment I'll come to which shows that maybe in a more textured way. It looks very plain and bland here, but it's conceived to be a lot more textured and a bit more variety in it than that. The vertical windows here you see at the first floor level are those windows that open into that corridor that link the two blocks at first floor level. So beyond those windows is the viewing gallery down over the multi-purpose hall. The block to the left here is the external changing room block, and that will be finished in a red stone, which is common to Murroe. So there's that link back to the existing buildings and the existing kind of landscape in Murroe village. If I move on to the view from the rear here, this is a view from the rear of the building. So this timber corner here is the corner where the cafe that you see as you approach the building up from the car park. On the far side, where this stone cladding is shown, behind that stone is the multifunction room on the ground floor and on the first floor. And then that continues across to the expression of the multi-purpose hall. And you can see this kind of recessed covered area there. So we designed this bearing in mind that, you know, sometimes you can be caught in a quick shower. So for those who may be at the playground or those who are at the skateboard park who need to suddenly run for shelter, there's an opportunity here to get out of a sudden downpour of rain. And at the far side of the building, you see the back of that wing, and the areas here you see are the plant areas really. So this enclosure here is an enclosure around some external plant that's required to service the building. I mentioned the external finishes, and I'm going to go to my last slide here, which shows the elevations, number one, but these little images then try to show what those materials will look like. So the color here, the beige color I'm outlining here on the front elevation will be a form of cladding, which would be similar to that seen in the picture above. So it's more textured, more varied, and those kind of beigey hues, those beigey tones tie in then with the timber to the right hand side, and the stone also to be used around the changing room block, and also in the back of the building around the multi-function room in the ground floor. I wanted to speak a little bit about energy efficiency. So I mentioned that we've been very conscious of cost and the cost of maintaining and running a building into the future. And that's informed the choice of materials to try and minimize those costs, because we are very conscious of building as a community building, and that funding for ongoing running costs can be hard to find. So that philosophy also continues into the building services. So for a start, the design of the building, the technical design of the building includes for a very, very high level of insulation to the building fabric, and as well as that, very good airtightness performance for the building. And what that does is it means that any heat generated inside the building is generally retained in the building. Therefore, the need to constantly heat the building is reduced. The building will be heated by heat pumps, air-to-water heat pumps, which again rely on the temperature of the air outside to heat the building inside, and it means that the building isn't reliant on gas or oil or fossil fuels to provide the heating needs of the building. Those heat pumps will also generate the hot water requirements for the building. On the roof, we've included for photovoltaic panels on the roof of the multi-purpose hall to contribute to meeting the electrical demand of the building. LED lighting will be used throughout the building with intelligent daylight controls. And what that means in terms of intelligent daylight controls is, number one, the light levels can dim up or down depending on the natural light level outside. And also there will be presence or motion detection, so that if a room isn't used for some time or the lights are left on, the light will switch off automatically to help further reduce running costs. The design has also been considered to allow for the future installation of a rainwater harvesting system. Turning to the wider site, I mentioned a while ago about the plaza, and I think you asked a question, Stephen, regarding electric car parking. So the design includes for the provision of the infrastructure for electric car charging at the car park. The car park itself, actually, I should have mentioned, maybe includes space for about 60 parking spaces, including accessible parking and set down for coaches. So I think that's generally it from my overview, but if you have any questions, Stephen, I'd be delighted to take them.
Thanks very much, Carl. That was brilliant. A really, really clear overview of the building and its many different functions, the different businesses that will be able to use it, the different types of user that it's envisaged that it'll have, and kind of what it'll look and feel like. I guess the feeling of it is more than anything. What's it going to feel like in the space when you're walking up? You know, like everybody watching this will know what it's like to walk up past the church on the right hand side and look over, you know, past the post office on the right hand side, then look to the left. They're going to see the service station, but then behind the service station they're going to see this building. So as they enter the kind of site, what's it going to feel like? What's the overarching impression?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I suppose that's a very good point, and it has been very carefully considered by the design team. The multidisciplinary design team involved in the design and delivery of this project, and there's been a very rigorous set of meetings between ourselves and the steering group, which have been very helpful in fine-tuning designs of the building and design of the site layout to achieve an optimal outcome. The entrance to the site, I suppose, is narrow. As you say, the approach is here off the main street. I'm showing here on the screen Trisha's landscape plan again. So the building is quite far down the site, and the reason for that is because the site is wider down to the rear of the site. It's also a central, I suppose, a pivotal location. The site, if you like, is kind of an L shape because you have this entrance area here at the car park, and then it extends down beyond the building past the skateboard park and playground down to the all-weather pitch. So and we were conscious that in placing a sea of cars at the entrance wasn't the ideal situation. However, those cars do need to be accommodated, number one. And number two, from a safety point of view, it's very important that the cars are separated from the rest of the facility, so that once you're in the facility, generally, you're not interacting with cars. So for that reason, the car park was pulled very much to the front, and that necessitated the relocation of the playground, as shown here at the back, opposite the skateboard park at the back of the site. So to help address that concern that you've raised, Stephen, as Trisha has mentioned, we introduced kind of a pedestrian access spine so that the footpath will lead naturally into the spine with an attractive paving on that. And as Trisha mentioned, significant tree planting and landscaping, soft landscaping along that spine to reinforce that spine on the one hand, to screen the cars to the south of that on the other hand. And so the idea is that spine very much draws you up towards the forecourt, the plaza, and the building, and on the one hand, and also to this path to the rear of the site. Also as part of this, we've shown a cycle lane. So we're very conscious that so many of the local community live very close to the building, maybe a little bit too far to walk, or maybe even if it isn't too far to walk, the kids are on a bike or whatever. So we've been conscious to include facilities for people on bicycles as well as pedestrians and cars. So many people live so close to the building. So a lot of effort went in to try and ensure that the corner of the building that you see as you approach is attractive, is visible, and draws you in. I mentioned showing the 3Ds that the cafe here is clad in timber, and the wall on the far side around the external changing area is in stone. So as you come up this spine, looking across the forecourt, the first thing you see is timber, and in the background you see the stone. So those natural materials, that choice of natural materials is very deliberate to try and give the building a human scale, a human touch, natural materials, etc. Unfortunately, building in timber and building in stone is very expensive. So we've tried to control the use of those and use those in key areas. You could do the whole building in stone, but it becomes very, very expensive, and there is a limit on the funds available. So that I suppose is part of the answer. The next part of the answer is the design of this plaza has been very carefully considered by Trisha and the team in Dave Ryan Landscape Architects to ensure that, number one, it's an attractive space, and number two, that it provides seating and areas for people to be able to relax and hang out, and also that it's multifunctional, so that it can serve and function in many ways. So we tried to leave the center of the plaza fairly free of obstruction, so that it could be used in multiple ways. If you put seating or plants and all the rest in the middle of the plaza, while that's attractive on the one hand, it kind of could get in the way of something in the other hand. It's probably also important to note, you can maybe just about see it in the drawing here, the kind of faint outline that looks like a T and that's actually a turning circle for a fire tender. Please God, it'll never be required, but it is a consideration. So we did have to provide fire tender access to the perimeter, to part of the perimeter of the building, and that's the solution there. But of course, as well as fire tender access, it allows for vans or whatever that might be associated with the rigging of the multi-purpose hall for an event where there might be specialist lighting, specialist sound, scenery, or whatever. So cars, vans, small trucks, ideally not articulated lorries, can get in there and do what they need to do to, again, because I mean, I suppose the committee were very clear. It's very easy to kind of think, well, this could be a sports hall, but it was very clear from the outset in all the discussions that this isn't just a sports hall. Sports is one important function that will be used for, surely, but there's lots of other functions that the community need to have accommodated in this building, and that the design of the building must be considered to allow a multiple of uses, hence the multi-purpose hall name. So I suppose the other point then, and I'll stop talking maybe, the pathway linking back to the wonderful developments that have already been completed, namely the all-weather pitch, namely the skateboard park, which I saw in the local media had recently opened, which is congratulations to everyone involved, but also the perimeter path that runs around the site, which is also a very important amenity for people. That access route to that is paramount. There will be a gate located around here, a sliding gate, so that can be shut down. And here at the far side of the building too. So the back of the site can be shut down out of hours to ensure security of the property to the rear, which is probably less visible from the village centre. So that is an important consideration also. But you can see here at the beginning of the little circle here, the greens, those little landscape features have been included and incorporated in the design. I think some of those have already started to be built here at the rear, and they were built in line with the plan that Trisha and her colleagues had developed earlier in the design phase. That phase has already been implemented. So we're really growing out towards the building, which is the next big phase. And we're really excited to get the building on site and get it moving.
Fantastic. Cathal, thank you so much for your time. And Trisha, thank you as well. We, as members of the community, we're delighted that you've put so much work into this. I think the building is going to be spectacular. I think the other elements of the site are going to be fantastic as well. Everybody watching this will have seen the skate park opening. That was a long time coming. There's a lot of work went into it. But you can already see people using it, people enjoying it, people experiencing the site. You all know how good the all-weather pitch is, and we'll be putting a new playground in that semicircular area. It's going to be a big building, and of course, there's going to be multiple different uses of this. I just can't wait to see it up and working. It's going to be brilliant for everyone in Murroe. So just on behalf of all of them, just thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Best of luck.